Today we would talk about one of the very interesting topics, and that is the religious reform movements. How and when did they originate? So religious reform movements had their own significance. The Hindu structure of the society was affected with the advent of Islam in India, and when there was a change, what happened was there was a need for bringing reforms. So Bhakti movement was a part of the Hindu revolution, and with Islam there was Sufi movement that started. So today our idea would be to focus on two major reforms, the Sufi movement and the Bhakti movement. Now how did this all begin? We first talk about the Sufi movement. So when Islam came into India, there was a concept of bringing in equality, bringing in justice and unity for everyone, and that was through the Sufi movement. Now where does this word Sufi comes from? Sufi comes from simply a word saf, which means the coarse cloth in Persian, and it is also indicative of the concept that these people used to live a simple life. It also means pure, that is derived from the word saf, which is pure. So both of those indicate that the people used to live a pure life and a simple life. They initially came from the region of Persia in the 11th century AD, 11th century, and they settled in the parts of India. So they arrived from the region of Persia and entered India, and there was the revolution of the Sufi movement that started. Now with Sufi movement there was popularization of commonly known as what are called as Qawwalis. So Qawwalis became an essential element. Now when Sufism started, there were various principles which were associated with the Sufi movement. The principles of Sufism are really interesting to understand and know. The first and the foremost principle was that God is all one and powerful, and all men are the children of God. So that was the first concept that was believed. The next concept talked about tolerance, that was tolerance for other religions and the other religious sects as well. The next important was to love God is to love mankind and equal respect for all human beings on earth. And finally, following the teachings of the Guru, which were known as Peer. So those were the major concepts and the principles of Sufism. Now there were various scholars who brought about the Sufi movement, but before we understand those scholars, we understand the two important orders in Sufi movement. Those were the Sohrawardi and the Chishti. Now there were 12 orders or silsilas under which the Sufi saints were divided. Sohrawardi and Chishti were the main two orders that we understand. Sohrawardi was laid down by Sheikh Zakaria in 12th century and Chishti by Muniuddin Chishti. So those were some of the major orders of Sufi movement. Coming on to the major scholars and proponents of Sufism and the Sufi movement. So we have four major reformers. The first is Khwaja Muniuddin Chishti. Now he is also known as Garib Nawaz. His dargah has been built in Ajmer, where people come in globally to visit there irrespective of their religion. So the dargah in Ajmer is one of the classic examples of Sufi movement and a depiction of the Sufi movement. He lived in Ajmer, he died there, and he was finally buried there. So Khwaja Muniuddin Chishti, who laid the foundation for the Chishti order, has been important. Baba Farid's contribution is important. His contribution is known for his local works in in Punjabi literature, and his works have been known in Punjabi. His writings were in Punjabi, and he was able to preach the people in Punjabi. So all his verses have been included in Guru Granth Sahib as well, and since he was followed by both Muslims and Hindus, his concepts and ideologies have been unique, and therefore his name as Baba Farid. His shrine has been located at Pakpatnam, which is in the present day Punjab of Pakistan. So two major reformers that we talked about, Muniuddin Chishti, Baba Farid. Now the next two important reformers that we would talk about are Muniuddin Aulia, Muhyiddin Aulia of Delhi has his popular name as Hazrat Nizamuddin, and you also have the Hazrat Nizamuddin railway station, which is very popular among people of Delhi. Now, he lived and preached in Delhi, and he is known for his religious tolerance. Similarly, we have Nasiruddin Chirag-e-Delhi. His name has been named as Chirag-e-Delhi or Chirag Roshan Delhi, that means illumination of Delhi, and he was one of the major figures of Sufi movement. So 4 important Sufi reformers that we have considered who led to the spread of Sufism. So under Sufi movement, we have talked about how the principles have been important, the major reformers coming on to the impact. Now, first of all, the reformers were trying to bring in a liberal and a secular view. They were very democratic to the ideas, and most of the developments have been seen with Sufi movement not only in Islamic literature but also in the regional literature, as we have seen the works of Baba Farid in Punjabi literature. So there have been lots and lots of development in the regional languages and the regional works as such. So local people were affected, and local people tried to slowly and gradually bring this closer to their heart. This also brought Hindus and Muslims close together and brought in a major element of unity between the two. Also, there were influences that were seen, because in the beginning we talked about Sufi movement and Qawwalis. So here we had influence of poets and poetic style that was introduced with the Sufi movement. Coming from the Sufi movement to the Bhakti movement is yet interesting. Now, this Bhakti movement originated, the word Bhakti means devotion of God, and the idea is to maintain a peaceful coexistence, a brotherhood, a unity, and opposition of caste system, as we had seen in the Sufi movement, is also one of the important elements of Bhakti movement. So, Bhakti movement, be it North India or South India, focused on the idea of maintaining unity, brotherhood, tolerance, and opposition of any kind of caste system that prevailed in the society. And all the impurities of the society were to be dismantled through the Bhakti movement. So Bhakti movement is technically divided into 2 sects, Nayanars and Alvars. Nayanars were those who believed in Lord Shiv. Alvars were those who believed in Lord Vishnu, and that was a major difference in the ideology and philosophy. So Nayanars were divided into 63 sects, and Alvars divided into 12 sects, and both of these had a huge following from the common people, the weavers, the potters, the artisans, the common people, the merchants, and therefore they had a huge backing. Now Nayanars, who worshipped Lord Shiva, or be it Alvars who worshipped Lord Vishnu, had a common ideology and a common thought process. The common idea was, as we mentioned, opposition of any kind of caste system, opposition of any kind of religious intolerance, and bringing all religions on equality. So some of the major proponents of Bhakti movement that we must know are Shankaracharya. Shankaracharya is known for his philosophy of Advaitism. He was one of the preachers from Kerala, and his idea was oneness of soul and God, and he believed and advocated the concept of illusion, that is Maya, that surrounds us. Similarly, we have Ramanujan. Ramanujan was born in Chennai, and he was one of the scholars who preached in local language, reaching to weavers, cobblers, and the common people, so that his ideas, the thoughts of Bhakti movement, could be reached to far and wide audiences. Similarly, we had Ramanand. He worshipped Ram. So the best way you can remember is Ramanand and Ram. So he worshipped Ram rather than Vishnu. So in the initial sect, we said there was either those who believed in Lord Shiv or those who believed in Lord Vishnu. But Ramanand preached Lord Ram. He did not preach Vishnu or Shiv. And he again had disciples from all the caste. His disciples include Kabir, who was a weaver, Ravidas, who was a cobbler, Sen, who was a barber, and even Sadhna, who was a butcher. So be it any caste, low or high, be it any work that was done, his followers belong to all caste and all types of segments of the society. And the next is Kabir. Kabir's work are important. He wrote lots and lots of dohas which are also known as bijak, and those who follow the philosophy, the ideology of Kabir are known as Kabir Panthi. He believed that there is only one God. You can name it as Allah, Rahim, Hari, Ram, whatever you want, but there is only one God, and his concepts were appreciated deeply by Hindus and Muslims alike. So those were some of the major scholars that we talk about from Bhakti movement. Now Bhakti movement did not stop here itself. Some other common people over the years evolved and led to developments with Bhakti movement. We have Meera, who developed the Bhakti movement with Lord Krishna. Guru Nanak, who was the founder of Sikhism and the 10th Guru of Sikh, he was again one of the major proponents of Bhakti movement. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu started his works in Bengal, and he started lot of Bhakti Kirtan or the Bhakti Sadhana. The idea was to express devotion to God. Similarly, Mirabai renounced her life from the comfort of being a princess and devoted the life to Lord Krishna. So those were some of the major people who over the years evolved with Bhakti movement. Again, Bhakti saints did not stop here. Maharashtra was one of the areas where Maratha saints had a very popular backing, and we had the works of Sant Gyaneshwar or Dhyaneshwar, which have been important. He died at a very young age of 21. At 15, he was able to write the documentary on Gita, which was known as Dhyaneshwari in his own name, and he expressed deep love for God through his bhajans and kirtans. He was born in Apegaon near Godavari river. So Sant Dhyaneshwar had a huge following, even for a fact that he died at a very early age. The next is Sant Tukaram. Sant Tukaram, again similar to Mirabai, is known for his devotional songs for Lord Krishna, and he preached equality of human beings. He was a contemporary of Shivaji and has been very important. Namdev's work have been important. His story is rather important. He started as a tailor, became a bandit, and finally a saint. And later on, he had numerous Marathi poems that have been composed and written, which focused on the devotional songs of God. The next we need to understand is the impact of Bhakti movement. Now, the Bhakti movement impacted the youth similar to the Sufi movement. So it brought about oneness. It abolished the caste system. All kind of rigidities were abolished. People from lower caste started to get involved, as we have seen the involvement of Raidas, the involvement of Ravidas, Sen and Sadhana. And similarly, we have many basic people from lower caste slowly and gradually getting into a Bhakti movement and getting themselves involved. Also, the main idea was the teachings were very simple, so that the common man can understand, and moreover they were in the language of common people. They focused on the idea of Hindu-Muslim unity, which was a major setback during the time of the dissociation of the various empires in the kingdom. And definitely similar to the Sufi movement, it gave rise to the enrichment of the regional languages, because many of the reformers tried to bring in the concept in local language. Now, following all these, we can say there have been numerous similarities in the Bhakti movement and the Sufi movement. These similarities have been very interesting. As we said, both aim to reduce the caste gap, both try to bring in a simple living. Their teachings were simple, their teachings were in local language, and the messages were for adherence to the moral values, unity of Hindus and Muslims. Any kind of unnecessary rituals, unnecessary commitments were to be removed, and simplicity in lifestyle was the basic idea in both the reform movements. So both the reform movements had a common thing: bringing in religious tolerance, removing any kind of caste discrimination, getting people from lower caste, uplifting them and bringing them at par, removing any kind of social discrimination that occurs in the society. Since they were in the local languages, regional people were brought into the mainstream. Local languages, local literature, local religion, the regional concept was further strengthened and developed. To have a quick overview about what we have studied so far in the religious reform movement is a summary and a gist of the Bhakti movement and the Sufi movement. So Sufi, to repeat again, comes from the word saf, which is a coarse cloth or leading a simple life, or saf, that is pure. The idea is they do not believe in any kinds of rites, rituals, any kind of thing that is there just to show, but the idea is pure devotion, religious tolerance, no caste discrimination. And the Sufis have been divided into orders or silsilas. The two important orders are Sohrawardi and Chishti. Similarly, the Bhakti movement started with the devotion to God. The idea was again the same, religious tolerance, no caste discrimination. And you had the Nayanars and the Alvars. Nayanars followed Shiva, Alvars followed Vishnu, and both of those were those who promoted people to come into the mainstream, remove caste discrimination, any kind of racial barriers, and strengthen regional language, regional literature. So bringing in more community understanding, more coherence, more tolerance was one of the major objectives of these reform movements. Local languages were encouraged, caste systems were discouraged, abolished, and bringing in unity across Hindus and Muslims was the main idea. The reformers of Bhakti movement, Mirabai, Kabir, Ramanujan, Raidas, Guru Nanak, Ramanand are some of those. And then Sufi movement, we have Muniuddin Chishti, Nizamuddin Aulia, Baba Farid as some of the common examples that we have discussed. So this was a quick recap of what we have understood in this class. We would be covering many more interesting lectures in history and development. Stay tuned for more updates from our side. Have a wonderful day.